Hey everybody, welcome to DadsDen and Pop Culture and a TV series review today. One that I've only recently watched, Yancy Derringer, which showed up on CBS in 1958 for a 34-episode run that didn't really kill it in its initial run, but found an audience in syndication. It's a pretty cool show, and at first glance appears to be a Western. There were a lot of Westerns in the late 50s into the 60s. But is it a Western? That's the question here. It is set in New Orleans in the aftermath of the Civil War. Derringer is a former Confederate Army captain who now makes his living as a gambler, and he owns a riverboat, and he's got a few other little irons in the fire. And he settles back into his native New Orleans after spending 3 years seeking his fortune in the American West. Okay, well, there's a West connection there. Now, the show was developed from a short story called The Devil Made a Derringer, written by Richard Sale in 1938. Sale was a prolific writer of the pulps, who then got into screenwriting and directing. He developed this show with Mary Luce, actress, screenwriter, TV writer, novelist, and niece of Anita Luce, the writer of Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, which I did a review of on this channel not too long ago. Now, Derringer is played by Jock Mahoney, an actor who kind of got his start as a stuntman, doubling for Gregory Peck, John Wayne, Errol Flynn. Notably, he made the dramatic leap on the stairs at the end of The Adventures of Don Juan, which I reviewed on this channel earlier. Mahoney also worked in a few of Three Stooges' short subjects. He finally got a chance as an actor in Cody of the Pony Express in 1950. Now, the Yancy Derringer character is known, of course, for his elegant dress, his walking stick, which is like a sword cane, and his Sharps Pepperbox Derringer handguns, one concealed in his hat, one in his vest pocket, and one up his sleeve. Now, it was during the time that he was in the American West that he met Pahu, a Pawnee who communicates via sign language, never speaks, and wields a mean sawed-off shotgun and throwing knife. Pahu apparently once saved Yancy's life, which means he went against fate and was now responsible for Yancy's life from then on. So it's not the story of like Yancy saved him and now he has to be dedicated to Yancy. No. Other way around. Pahu saved Yancy, and now Yancy is his responsibility. Pahu is played by X Brands, or J.X. Brands, an American actor of German ancestry who had frequently portrayed Native Americans in TV and film before getting the role of Pahu. Pahu is maybe my favorite character in the series. Always serious, always, like he's the dude you can rely on. And frankly, watching scumbags take it from both barrels of that sawed-off shotgun, it's often very, very satisfying. The New Orleans of this era is an occupied city controlled by the U.S. federal government via John Colton, who is the administrator, basically, of New Orleans, played by Kevin Hagen. Hagen is probably best known for playing Dr. Hiram Baker on Little House on the Prairie. No matter what I see him in, that's what I'm always thinking of, because that's what I knew him from my childhood. Colton is an honest, fair man, very by the book, maybe too by the book at times, but he's in a tough situation. New Orleans is a powder keg. There's a lot going on, and he's got to keep control of it. Well, to deal with all these situations that are difficult for the law to deal with, he brings in Yancy as his personal agent, but this is strictly secret. Nobody can know. Yancy has to be believed to be part of the demi-monde of New Orleans. And therefore, even if he's doing what's right, if he breaks laws doing it, he might have to be arrested, maybe even hanged. So it's a tough situation. Why does Yancy do it? Because he loves his city and he wants to protect it. Fans of Tombstone will probably like Yancy's response to Colton's pitch to be his secret agent in the first episode. He says, "What you want is a rakel, a rogue, scoundrel, gentleman, smuggler, a gambler, and a fool. Well, Mr. Derringer? Well, Mr. Colton, I guess I'm your huckleberry. So if you thought that that little phrase was first, no, showed up in 1958 in this one, it really, to me, places Yancy Derringer more in the espionage genre than almost anything else. A little bit like Wild Wild West without the camp. Maybe even a little bit like Hogan's Heroes without the comedy. It's really a story of a secret agent protecting New Orleans from various threats. But it really does get to the key element of Yancy's character, which is heroism, love for his home city, love for the people of New Orleans. He's willing to suffer to see the city get back on its feet after the war, get to something better than it's dealing with now, or maybe than it has been. He is beloved in New Orleans for this reason, but he is known to be a roguish sort. And this does help him sort of play both sides, the bad guys and the good guys, ultimately for the good guys. His frequent stays in jail create a friendship between him and Turnkey, the jailer, played by Larry J. Blake, vaudevillian, who got his start in pictures in the series Secret Agent X9 in 1937. This is a useful contact, of course, because oftentimes he has to break out of jail, having been put there by Colton, so that he could get back out to finish a mission for Colton. It's kind of a weird situation. Now, Yancy's other major ally and love interest in New Orleans is Madame Francine, the owner of a members-only gambling house known for its honest games and French cuisine. Madame Francine is really named Nora, and she's Irish, not French. She's played by Frances Bergen, wife of Edgar Bergen and mother of Candace Bergen. I would have liked to have seen a closer relationship between her and Yancy over the course of the series. It's there, but it doesn't get too far along. I think that would have actually been cool. It would have maybe helped. Now, Madame Francine employs a former servant, possibly slave, of the Derringer family, Obadiah. He is now the club doorman of Madame Francine's and a pillar of the community in New Orleans, played by Bill Walker, a prolific actor, best known for his role as Reverend Sykes in To Kill a Mockingbird. And we also should mention Richard Devon as Jody Barker, a pickpocket and informant of Yancy's. Now, the first episode involves Yancy's return to New Orleans after 8 years. So you have the Civil War. There was a year spent in a Yankee prison hospital after being wounded at Cold Harbor, and several years in the American West trying to strike it rich and failing. In this episode, he tangles with ne'er-do-wells, reunites with the lovely Amanda, played by Julie Adams, she of the mesmerizing white bathing suit and creature from the Black Lagoon, and discovers that John Colton, the new administrator of New Orleans, means to have him killed. Slight spoiler, this last bit of information might not be completely accurate. The episode establishes the partnership, ultimately, between Yancy and John Colton, and demonstrates Yancy's deep bond with Pahu. Subsequent episodes deal with card cheats, payroll robberies, con men, lost fortunes, great fodder for action and adventure. Now, the one issue I had with some of the earlier episodes was the way they had Jock Mahoney play the Yancy character as very reserved. Now, Mahoney being a stuntman, great energy about him, sort of like Errol Flynn, the more reserved manners in the earlier episodes, to me, didn't really play to his strengths. Sometimes left me a little bit flat. Thankfully, the character loosened up over the course of the 34-episode series. More energy, more charisma. And I think the stories improved as the writers really kind of figured out the character of Yancy Derringer and what they could best do with him. I think my favorite episode was episode number 19, Panic in Town. Episode's a little crazy for 1958, especially for a show that would have had a large audience among children, because even if it might not technically be a Western, it was close enough for kids, and kids loved Westerns. Well, in this one, a man stalks the streets of New Orleans, attacking women and cutting off bits of their hair. That's the attacker. Wow. So basically, a sort of killer clown stalking the streets of New Orleans. Episode works on a few different levels. There is the weird, creepy vibe of the clown guy, of course, but there's also a decent mystery as they track down the identity of this person in the clown mask. And there's also the question of why he's cutting off a bit of his victim's hair. And you also get some social commentary in the episode. Really good one. There are some good guest stars over the course of the series. Marie Windsor shows up in episode 3, Ticket to Natchez. John Dehner, a mainstay of Westerns in the 50s and 60s, and one of my favorite radio actors at the time, appears in episode 9, Memo to a Firing Squad. Beverly Garland appears in a couple episodes as Coco LaSalle, Queen of the Pirates, a very fun character, and she really sinks her teeth into it. In episode 20, Hell and High Water, you get Charles Bronson as Rogue Donovan, a man who, to gain vengeance, would see New Orleans wiped off the face of the earth. Grant Williams plays Colonel George Custer in episode 22. Long hair, not a flattering portrayal. That episode also guest stars Kelly Thorsden as Colorado Charlie, scout and mountain man, and an ally of Yancy's and Pahu's. He appears in a few episodes towards the end of the series. Very fun character and well played. Jesse James, played by Brett King, appears in episode 30, Outlaw at Liberty, but maybe more notable for fans of Westerns and of Master Ninjas is Lee Van Cleef in the role of Ike Minton. Episode 32 introduces two characters that I really loved, and they return in the last episode, Wee Willie Benson and Blackjack Benson, played by Lee Kendall and Mickey Morton. I won't say too much about them to avoid spoilers, but they're a couple of well-spoken giants. Very fun characters. I noticed that in the later episodes of the series, we get more of Yancy operating out west. He ultimately comes to own a silver mine around Virginia City, Nevada. So I wonder if they weren't maybe looking to pivot to a more Western setting to take advantage of the great love of Westerns. If so, unfortunately, it was too late to pivot. They only got 34 episodes, but they're 34 really good episodes, and I think you should give them a look. You get action, you get adventure, you get some mystery. Jock Mahoney starts out maybe a little bit too reserved, becomes more energetic and charismatic as he goes. Pahu is fantastic. Love Pahu. I would have liked to have seen more of Madame Francine in the series, but when she gets, a good part in one of them, she's great at it. Just a lot of good stuff. A lot of good stuff. Great guest stars. You should really check out Yancy Derringer. You can find them right now on Tubi, and I think they're probably maybe floating around a few other places as well. Give it a look. Let me know in the comments what you think of Yancy Derringer. If you're a fan, I'd love to hear from you. Is it a Western? Is it a spy show? Is it a little bit of both? I'd love to hear what you have to say. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, maybe subscribe, maybe share with a friend. That would be very, very cool. But in the meantime, God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another. Have a little bit of fun out there, and I will see you hopefully again soon in Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Bye-bye.